Welcome to The Explainer. So what does it mean to be European? You probably have an image that pops into your head, right? Well, the real genetic story is way more complex, and honestly, a lot more surprising than you might think. Today we're going to peel back the layers of ancient history to uncover the three great migrations that literally forged the DNA of modern Europeans.
Okay, let's just dive right in by shattering a few stereotypes. I want you to forget what you think you know. We're going to ask a really simple question and let ancient DNA give us the answer. What did the very first people on the continent actually look like?
All right, so our story begins with the very first layer, the foundation of European ancestry. We're talking about the Paleolithic hunter-gatherers, the people who roamed the continent for tens of thousands of years. These were the original Europeans.
So when scientists analyzed the DNA from ancient skeletons, what they found was kind of mind-blowing. The first modern humans to spread across Europe had dark, even black skin and dark, curly hair. Now get this, the gene for blue eyes popped up much later, around 14,000 years ago, creating this really striking combination that became common across the whole continent.
Yeah, just let that sink in for a second. For the vast majority of modern human history in Europe, everybody had dark skin. This foundational group, these hunter-gatherers, they established the first genetic footprint, and it looked totally different from what we might picture today.
Now, that brings us to the second layer of ancestry. This group builds on that foundation, but it also changes everything. A new wave of people arrives, and they don't just bring new genes with them. They bring a revolutionary new technology that's going to change the continent forever, right down to the color of people's skin. So this next big wave kicks off about 10,000 years ago. Migrants start moving in from Anatolia, modern-day Turkey, and the Middle East, and they're bringing the secrets of farming and animal domestication with them. This wasn't just a new diet, it was the seed of a whole new world. It led to the first cities, permanent settlements, a total transformation of how humans lived.
So, here's the big question. Why did European skin get lighter? Well, it all boils down to a powerful evolutionary trigger, vitamin D. Hunter-gatherer diets were packed with it, from fish and animal organs. But when you switch to a grain-based farming diet, you lose that critical source. And in the cloudier climates of Europe, this caused a massive health crisis. Suddenly, lighter skin, which is way more efficient at making vitamin D from sunlight, became a huge survival advantage.
And now we get to the third layer, and this one is the most dramatic, maybe the most controversial of all. Around 5,000 years ago, a new group storms in from the east, and these aren't just migrants. They are a force of nature that will, once again, completely rewrite Europe's genetic and cultural destiny.
So who were these people? Archaeologists call them the Yamnaya. They came from the massive grasslands we now call Ukraine and southern Russia. These were horse-riding pastoralists, and they moved west with an almost explosive force, setting off one of the biggest population turnovers in all of prehistory. And this is where the genetic story gets absolutely wild. Ancient DNA shows a staggering difference in how they impacted the local people. On the male side, the Y chromosome, it's a near-total wipeout. The local male lines are almost completely replaced by Yamnaya DNA. But on the female side, it's a totally different story. The local female lines show a lot of continuity. It tells a very clear story. The incoming Yamnaya men were mixing with local women.
The scale of this replacement was just immense. So much so that one geneticist famously said that modern European men are without exception descendants of these Yamnaya men. I mean, it was nothing short of a genetic revolution, and it was carried almost entirely by the men.
But the Yamnaya didn't just replace people. They brought a whole cultural package with them, a set of innovations and traits that really laid the foundation for Europe as we recognize it today.
And their legacy was just total. Technologically, they brought horseback riding and wheeled carts, absolute game changers for travel and war. Linguistically, they brought Proto-Indo-European, which is the mother tongue of almost every single language spoken in Europe today. And they even changed how people looked and what they ate, spreading the genes for blonde hair and for lactose tolerance, the ability to drink milk as an adult.
And you can still see this genetic footprint so clearly today. The two main male lineages in Europe, these haplogroups called R1b and R1a, are both from the Yamnaya. R1b is super common in Western Europe, think Ireland, Spain, Britain.
and R1a is dominant in Eastern and Slavic Europe. Those older pre-Yamnaya male lines, they're incredibly rare now. So here's the crucial point, the big takeaway. When we look at a modern European, we are not seeing a single ancient identity. We're looking at a composite, a genetic blend of these three very different ancient peoples.
Every European walking around today carries a cocktail of DNA from those original dark-skinned hunter-gatherers, the first light-skinned farmers from Anatolia, and those horse-riding steppe invaders. The exact percentages change depending on where you are, but those three ingredients, they're always there. Of course, history is never that neat and tidy. And this process of mixing created some absolutely fascinating paradoxes around the continent, places where the cultural story and the genetic story just don't seem to line up at all.
Okay, check this out. The Basque people in Spain and France, they are famous for speaking Euskara, a language that is a total linguistic fossil. It's not related to any other language in Europe, and it was there before the Yamnaya arrived. So you'd think they would be a pure unmixed group, right? Well, genetically, Basque men have one of the highest concentrations of the Yamnaya R1b male lineage in all of Europe. It's an incredible twist. They kept their ancient language while their paternal line was almost completely replaced.
And that really brings us to our final thought here. The genetic story of Europe isn't one of people staying put. It's a story of constant movement, of replacement, of mixing, of layers upon layers of migration. So it really forces us to ask a tough question. In a world that was defined by all these overlapping ancient journeys, what does the idea of being native to any one place truly mean?